Moin. We in Hamburg say always moin, or nice to see you. Very warm welcome to our first experience Nordic conference. It's a games track here on the animation conference um, with special insights from game artists. And I think we have a very cool lineup with very good speakers, and I hope you enjoyed you will enjoy the talks. And applause for Johannes Mücke. Hi Johannes.
Hi.
Nice to see you. We are short in time, and you have a very cool talk. Long talk, and so we start immediately.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for having me in Hamburg to this conference. Thank you, Oliver, Emre, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk about this huge project. And it already kind of shows that even though I have things to do with games, I design for games as well, but there's not much game in this. This is a movie, but the interesting thing is, and this is what I want to talk about, is design process. And I think there's strong similarities between designing art for games and designing art for film and for entertainment in general. And I know the numbers for independent Resurgence weren't awesome, but just to get a little test, did anyone see it in the audience by a show of hands? Oh yeah, there's okay, there's a few at least. Okay, yeah. So let's get a little sense, a little feeling of that film. Yeah. So yeah, this is us. I'm going to skip over this really quickly. My company, Wideshot, that I founded with Oliver Bertram together, we do spaceships for amusement parks, brand architecture, themed architecture, characters for video games, worlds for video games, and obviously stuff for film as well. And the whole thing, working for Hollywood and working together with Roland Emmerich, started in 2008 with a little clip I made then. Back then I was freelancing. I was sitting in my underwear on my computer. I was doing a little YouTube animation for this character in 2012, the Charlie Frost clip, and that turned into something of a long-lasting relationship. Because the thing about Los Angeles is, you think there's so many people and there's work all over, but if you have a winning team or winning players in your team, you never change them. So it was a bit of a winning goal, this one, and then we continued to work on White House Down, on Anonymous, and a couple of movie pitches until Independence Day came around. And I was knocking at the door and I was saying, okay guys, I really want to do spaceships there. I really, this is my kind of movie, so get me in. But it was difficult. He said, yeah, well, the studios and the guilds, they have their rules, and you're from Austria, and you can't really play with us, and let's see if we can make that work. And I was sitting there, I was really frustrated about that, because I had spaceships all over my head at that point, until, oh, that's one too many. Yeah, until it really happened. This little space tug came along and it blew up to something really, really big. At one point, we were designing all the spaceships in the movie. We were designing the mothership, this gigantic ship that grabs leeches onto the Earth and is as big as the Northern Hemisphere, and was, in fact, a gigantic 3D file as well that was almost unhandleable. Then I got my fingers on designing the Alien Queen, which was actually the most fun thing, because I come from the character design point of view. we came to design all the cities, all the visual effects environments that that played a big role in the destruction of the Earth, obviously. And from creating these CG environments, you know, having this architectural background of the company, we moved towards set design. You see one of these old spaceships from the old Independence Day movie right there. And this is the first set we actually designed over there, which was the interior of it. Yeah, and that turned to something bigger and bigger. And you see the hangar, a virtual environment that we designed back in Vienna. And one of these little tiny specks in the end up there is this set, which was one of the largest sets in Albuquerque where the film was shot. Where we started, as you can see, from the beginning, from the concept to the 3D model to the actual planning, to the set, and really, it feels a bit like being, you know, a big boy with in a Lego store. You have everything at hand you can play with, you ever wanted to play with if you're part of this set. And those are a few images from what was happening there. Until in the end, we also were able to design the cockpit. I'm just flipping through the storyboards and also the title sequence, just to give you an idea of how big this gig actually turned that I'm going to talk about now. How does that work? This way, okay. So, I decided to pick 3 spaceships for this chat. I'm not really sure if I get to the third one, but I kind of prioritized them. I want to talk about the Moontag first, and an idea that I like and that I call the good ugly isn't always bad. How do you design around conventions? I want to shed a little bit of light on that. Yeah, I want to talk about the mothership as well, and just to really quickly glance on how we came up with a design language for an alien culture that has been there 20 years ago and now turned into a 2.0 alien culture. And if we have the time, yeah, I'd love to talk about the alien cockpit as well, because the production process of this set was really quite intriguing. So this is how it started. As I said earlier, I was trying to get this gig. I wanted to do spaceships. It didn't really happen, and then, all of a sudden, this landed in my mail account. Roland Emmerich himself sent it to me and said, "All right, so here's your chance. We have a green light presentation in 3 weeks. We need to get the money from Fox, and this is the spaceship. That's not going to work. We won't get money for that." There are things that are important and right. It has arms and should look a bit clumsy, but this is more like, from Spaceballs, this what's that called? This camper? Oh, right, exactly. The flying van. So but that was too fast. So we sat together in a couple of Skype sessions. It really worked well remotely. And what came out of these sessions was this insane scribbles that no one can read other than, the one who did it. But there's many thoughts in there already. You could already tell by the colors that there are different thoughts even there. It's not just wild scribbling. And that was enough for me to start blocking the thing. And to start talking to our designers at Wideshot to help me come up with 3D solutions that would visualize the scribble. And what we needed to do is really kind of come up with concepts for this space tug. That you have zero gravity, you have these arms, you have many things in the script, and what you want to have is at this point for this green light presentation not something that's buildable, but something that tells a story. That really lets the executives and the studios understand, okay, here are the story beats that are happening. When it re-enters Earth, it has these protections for the arms, or they can rotate in scene 89 and look to the back, and in scene whatever, they have these hydraulic pistons that they can transport stuff from the moon to the earth and all these kind of things. So we built something that was for sure not buildable at this point, but that was telling a story. And with this 3D model, we could go further. Did a little presentation with all the thoughts we had in there. Obviously, one of the most important being that human technology and alien technology would melt, or there would be a hybrid technology, and that had to be visualized in this one as well. And then we kind of did a production painting, as big and glamorous as we could, to get the money. Yeah, and it worked. And Rowan said, thank you. We got the money, thanks to you and a couple of other guys who really helped as well. We just did this one. Others did many more. All right, let's get you to Los Angeles. I promised you the door, so now show what you can do. And that was humbling. The production, the art department was set up at Prime Focus in Hollywood. And when I came there, I was confronted with these guys. I mean, Mark Young, he designed ships for Tron, or Steve Burke, he does all the alien ships and the interstellar spaceships. Or Stephen Platt, he's one of the most amazing Marvel comic artists, and he was just there for storyboarding. You know, it was fucking hell. That was a competition if there's anyone. And talking about competition, what Roland did is he said, okay, that was all fun and games until now, but now we got to build that thing, and the competition is on. Every one of these artists, every one of you guys does one space talk, and the best idea wins. But let's up the ante a little bit. I'm sorry about the German writing there, but I'm going to translate it quickly. It needs to be this space forklift, right, that we talked about, for 2 really crazy trucker-like heroes and 4 more passengers. We need a cockpit in the front and in the back. 2 of these gigantic arms who can do everything. We need arms that can do everything, haul and push and stand on these, and they need to be close to magic. But it's going to be a physical set, needs to fit on an 18-wheeler and through highway bridges. And yeah, but iconic, ideally. So have fun. Yeah, that was the challenge. So everybody ran to the computers, and coming from this architectural background, I ran and grabbed some tape and just made a little plan on the floor. So this is going to be the minimal space that I'm going to need. That was important. You know, you have the pilot, then there's supposed to be another chair, 4 passengers, another cockpit in the back, got a little stand in the front maybe. So this is the minimum space we need. Talk to the director and the DOP. Okay, does that work with the cameras? And after that worked, I knew, okay, this is the size that I'm going to have. Let's put that in 3D. And then I had this idea. Well, you know, like a seed that you would start from. These arms, there's so much emphasis on these arms. What if I built 2 rings, just 2 rings like these 2 blue ones, and on each of them is 1 arm attached, and you can rotate them 360 around this middle thing. Yeah, these arms could do anything. You could go to the front, to the back, you could fold them in, you could stand on them. And I really liked this idea, so I thought, you know what, let's push this idea as far as we can and just have the rest of the spaceship be just a spacey-looking potato in the middle, and we'll figure out the rest. But this is important. This is the battle I got to win. So I had 3 days until we had presentation. This is not much sleep, but can we start that? But this is what I came up with, just a little ugly frog. But it is iconic a little, isn't it? I mean, I hadn't seen something like that before. And this one can't fly for sure. I mean, you see that this can't fly, but you know, I came up with this idea, let's put some signature pieces on that wherever you see that in the movie, you will know it's alien-human hybrid technology. So don't ask. Whoever asks how this works now is stupid, because it's alien hybrid technology, right? So don't ask. And those were these little packages right there. So there were the old alien fighter, which had this kind of you know, Antrieb. What do you say? Antrieb? Propulsion engine, yeah. And if you take this iconic round thing and put some wings on the back and some NASA shit around it, no, that's it. That's what you need. This is like a signature piece for don't ask. It's alien. And we put that on everything. Because you can go to the moon in 2 hours and back, right? And you can lift and elevate and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But since we have this alien technology, it's fine. So that was a very important part to have that too. And we did it. I won the competition. That felt great. And so I could grab the little crappy 3D model and send it back to Vienna, where the designers were sitting in the office. And I got my architects on that, and they started to produce these you know, refined 3D models with the steel framing and the woodworks and the plastic works and everything that was needed for that. And this is the kind of material we sent back to Los Angeles, where then the set dressers and the art directors really just jumped on that and finalized the whole production work to get this guy on the road. Yeah, and then came the call. Okay, now production starts. This is actually on stage 7. That was the stage for the moon tag that we saw earlier with all these packages there. There was, as far as I know, this is the biggest stage in North America, or the second biggest stage. So I went to the set to continue working on the designs on the film. And I tell you what, you know, when you see it in real flesh and you can make your selfie with that thing, that felt good. That was 4 in the morning when no one was there. They just forgot to switch off the lights, and I took my time. I made so many pictures and they all turned out shit, but this one was really good. So yeah, and then the feeling to see Liam Hemsworth and all the other stars and Jeff Goldblum, you know, play around and do their magic around the set is just really priceless. It's a great feeling, but being an actor yourself feels good too a little bit, even if it's just your own iPhone. And he liked it. He was very happy with it. And by that time, we were already working on all these other things, and it was really an amazing cooperation with Roland Emmerich. It was very inspiring work. And when I came back to Vienna, this is what someone put on my desk. I hadn't seen it until then. I swear. But I think this is an important idea about that. You know, I had with some of my fellow lecturers today, or you know, a bit of a conversation about recursiveness, and it's really hard in today's world of art to stand out with a unique design, because it's your right hand and your left part of the brain really just, without you willing, repeats things you do. And I think it helps a lot to come up with some unique thing that is very conceptual, that will drive your design. And that I think that every other design decision that follows to that should be you know, inferior to this prior idea, like these 2 rings that I had. And this will lead to successful design, even if it's not really pretty on the first glance. But I think it helps to get some depth. So that's the other spaceship. Trickster was involved. They did a couple of effects shots, and they also did really a lot of pre-production paintings for the green light process, just like the one I showed you before. And I loved it when I saw that. That was the early concept of the mothership, and it was very successful, and folks loved that, and it kind of gave an idea about the scale and the idea where I was going to go. But as soon as production started, some birth defects of this design came to light. And here's a few problems this design had. The first is the animation of the legs. How does that go? In the movie it will move, but there was no logic behind this. It would destroy the Earth before ledging to it, if it kind of does weird things with these legs. So that was a problem. The other problem was it's great to have this disc over there, right? That's a cool thing. In the image it looks great, but if all the legs are retracted and it flies, you're back to Plan 9 from outer space. It becomes this flying saucer. So we had to do something with this. The massing was a bit of a problem. It looks like a cardboard model, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like it has its own gravity. It's more like an origami thing that's folded over Earth. So that was another little problem that had to be tackled. And then the feet. Roland Emmerich always called it, in a very Schwäbisch accent, die Kufe. The Kufe had to be redesigned. Because it didn't have scale, It could be in a sandbox. It doesn't really look like it's on a city, because it misses a bit of detailing there. The airplane helps, but that's not a solution. And the formal language was also kind of off, you see where it's getting, but it's still kind of undefined. So the challenge would be that you would see so many close-ups of this thing that you would really have to dig into the design, because this is nice but not final. So Roland said before I came to Albuquerque, dude, we got to do something with the Kufe. This is what we have, but it doesn't work. Do you have any idea? And I had ideas, but not really time. So I had one of the interns in our office kind of start, look into something, I don't know, microscopic maybe, or biologic, or just come up with things that are really random from somewhere else. And he found that. And that was awesome. I thought this was just a bullseye. You have the formal language is settled there. You don't have to think much anymore. The detailing is there. You have this massing. I mean, if you imagine this to be one of these Kufe things, there's heaviness in there. This is gonna crash the planet just like we wanted. And then look at these thorns, that could hack into the Earth. So I just printed this picture out and jumped into the plane, went off to Albuquerque, and Roland, when I arrived, they had a little bit of a barbecue party, the producers and him, and said, yeah, come around, let's have some sausages. And I said, yeah, I got an idea too. So everybody was already a little bit tipsy, having some wine and the barbecue, and I came with this, and I showed it to Roland, and he jumped in the air. He was so excited, because, he keeps destroying the White House. That's what he does. In this script, the script said, well, there's the White House, and the Kufe comes there, and stops right there. And it didn't feel right with Roland. I said, and then comes the claw and bam! It was like a little kid in the sandbox. Yes, I'm gonna show Fox. If you see the movie now, Fox had it changed, unfortunately. But whoever pays for the music decides what's on. But yeah, that was a very successful entry move into the whole mothership thing. And the first thing I had to do is visualize that. How would it come and kill the White House? That was really a good design door opener. And since I was not part of the art department, but I was kind of a vendor from Vienna, I wasn't sitting with the art department at that point. I was sitting at Roland's camper. This is my little spot where I worked, and I had 1 week to come up with this Kufe thing. The concept is there, but how does it look? How does it work? I mean, it's a nice idea, but prove it. So this is what I did, just really rough blocking, a little animation. of how it could work. The white thing, by the way, is the White House over there. Just, keep the focus. There it digs in, and some animation that doesn't make sense. It's alien anyways. And wait for it. There it comes. Bam. Didn't happen in the end. I was so disappointed. But worked. Well, and now we have the, oops. Well, but it also did something else. It really, there were so many things that I solved in there. There were a couple of design issues. Firstly, the concept, the story that was to be told about the aliens was they don't build their ships, they don't build their technology, they have it grown. They suck the magma out of the earth and then it grows like a tumor. So we had to have these fluid things, these organic things that we got from this foot. It also has these little knobs there, that was also in this fly foot, if you remember, from which little roots grow into the earth and start building under the earth more new spaceships. But all the organic thing wouldn't work as menacingly as it should have. And so we introduced to whatever is these lamellas. This was a very important counter design decision that we have a two poles influencing each other with the design. So this was kind of the prototype. He liked it, and we were ready to make the next storyboards really quickly where the Kufe does Washington. And it's just an amazing feeling when you then see that was really literally taken one-to-one into the film. So here's what I did in this trailer on high end. Yeah, you see there's so much more detail now. You got this structure. It looks like plowing through earth when it comes down. So the whole thing worked much better, like in the assumptions that were made in the pre-design process. And now, I made a really large, following this Kufa, I made a really large art Bible that broke down to all kinds of formal language. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but there's 4 principles that really drove the design henceforth. The first thing was heritage. We had to take the heritage from the old film. Then we have this, bionic-looking, blended from nature, formal language that would be married with this molten lava kind of thing, and the whole thing was kind of incorporated into the Kufe that I made over there. And those 4 chapters of this art Bible that we elaborated really did a huge job, because until that point, many spaceships had been designed already by the art department, but unfortunately, the art direction of that wasn't so specific, so it really narrowed things down. So you could say, okay, this one is out, this one is in, this one has to be directed into this direction. So this Kufa really helped a lot, and at that point, we were kind of the masters of this language, so we just popped out spaceships like this. It went really fast. Once you've settled your rule set, you just make one after the other. The super attacker or the alien bomber, which was the Queen ship too. We could go on forever. At one point, we just every 5 days there was a new spaceship. Yeah, and this helped really develop the whole mothership. So it was just a matter of really like a composer, taking the theme and producing and reproducing it on and on and on over the whole ship, and this is how it came to life. With the texture, there's so much to that. It would really kind of burst the whole talk here if I go too much in detail. But yeah, this again was a great feeling to see it plastered all over the billboards in Los Angeles. That started with a little fly foot. Yeah, let's go to the third chapter. I think we can. Yeah? Okay. So yeah, then came the in Austria you say Gusto-Stückel, which means like the really good part, the raisin of the cake, which is the iconic alien fighter. It is iconic. It's in the first movie they did such a fantastic job. I think Roland was the only one who never really loved it so much. He called it the flying hat, but I think it's good, and it's a very unique spaceship. So for this there was a redesign that we were given. That's a design one of the guys from the art department had made, and it had survived for quite a while. And it was done very early, and they settled on this very, very early because they had to build the cockpit right there, you know, there's this little part, the little head in the middle. So at one point, everybody was like, hey guys, did anybody just recently look at the fighter? It doesn't work, you know, we have to do something about that. So we got the job that Roland said, okay guys, do it differently. It has to be, we have to move on. It has to be look much more modern and sleek and cool. But keep in mind, this one in the middle, that's out of bounds. Don't touch that. This is a set. You know, you can't do anything with the cockpit, but everything else is off to you. Steve Burke had designed the cockpit. I liked it. I thought it was really cool the way he had designed it. And this was kind of the status when we got the job. You know, this was the stage in Albuquerque. They were working on this cockpit that was designed, and they were doing their thing. So we just got this, and here's a few before and after images. This is what we got, and that's what we kind of made of it. And again, you see, what we did is we really introduced everything that we put into the art Bible and that we defined with the queenship and the Kufa in the very beginning. We just applied that to this alien fighter, and it really worked, I think. This is the previous design, and see in the middle, we didn't touch it at all. And this is the new design that we made. So that was all great. So that's the new alien fighter. I stick to the idea, but make it just a bit more sleek and sexier. And then they were about to shoot. Yeah, there's a little illustration of how it could look. Not so much different, you know, but a bit more blending into the whole concept. And then came the moment that they had to shoot it, and it just didn't work anymore. You know, they had started way before we came up with this art Bible for the aliens, so the whole formal language just didn't work anymore at this point. It was pretty dramatic. And another thing that was problematic is, you can't really see this here, but they had already shot pieces where people are walking up the ramp to this cockpit. Now they had a continuity problem. You know, they had to detach the ramp and the cockpit a little bit. It just didn't work in terms of continuity anymore. One of the biggest problems was the cameras. Roland just, for some reason, it just didn't work that he put the cameras where he needed them. You know, close to the pilots, close to see them both, to look out of the window. It was another big thing. Did anyone see Oblivion? Nobody saw these two rings, you know, from the bubble ship. If they would have built that, they would have been in real trouble. So the rings were out of bounds. You can't do that anymore. It doesn't leave so much. And the steering was a really strange thing. You know, they had these seats, and I think it's a good idea that aliens don't have joysticks, but they had it like here. And it would have looked like the alien would just keep adjusting his seat or something, you know, but not really firing at enemies. So that was a problem too. We needed some proper sticks there because, you know, you need to see the action. The sticks are always an actor in itself. So what we did is, I mean, this is the final result, but, you know, this is what we built, and then we had an empty space in the middle. We just killed the cockpit, and these green little things, I mean, you guys all know, obviously, they are cameras. So Roland and me did one thing. We just placed cameras where we needed them. Put 2 figures in there and placed the cameras. With the proper lenses, so everything works out. And then we just built around it. We just built the beams and the windows and the seats and everything just around it. So every one of these, I think it was 10 cameras in total, would work just perfectly. So essentially the cameras drove the design, and then we just, kind of articulated a little bit around it to mend it into the whole fighter. And there we were. So all back to Vienna, and the architects and designers back at home at Wideshot, they designed the whole structure around it that we could send back to Los Angeles. And I did again what I love the most, do painting, because we needed to show to the executives at Fox they had to approve, obviously, and see what's happening, because there was a lot of delay for this shot. And since there was such a pressure, there's another image with how it could look like, with holograms and some alien UI, some alien Tesla stuff. And then I zoomed in and started to really, start articulating everything inside, because it's a set. You really have to go into detail, especially since the art director who was helping me, he suggested to get a creature designer for the cockpit. I thought we should, do it like Hector will tell us later, just sculpt it and then print it. But he said, no, let's get creature designers on that. There's some more of these joysticks we designed, and some other kind of tools, the hyperdrive. And I couldn't believe it. It's fully symmetrical, and they came with clay, like really building a huge creature on top of this set that we, the structure that we designed, and then they molded the thing in the middle. Roland, still skeptical. Brad Ricken, he was the art director who supported me there. And they molded the thing and then made a cast out of that. Do you see the brain bug back there? It's the guys who made Alien versus Predator and what's the movie called again with the brain bug? Starship Troopers, right, exactly. And then they painted it, and then it was done. And it doesn't happen so often that your first design really gets one-to-one build. This was just, okay, we've got to design a chair. Okay, there it is, build it. And now, cockpit stick, okay, build it. It was such a time pressure, that the designer came to the big pleasure that you have like a one-to-one copy of what you envisioned. And that was a very satisfying thing. Yeah, and that was the set, and kind of turned out really nice. Awesome, so I got through it with all 3 chapters. I didn't expect that. I hope it wasn't too fast. That's it.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Johannes, for your interesting and entertaining talk. And now we have a small Q&A session. I hope you are not shy and you have some question for Johannes. It's a great chance to ask him. Maybe I start with one question, of course. After this talk, I have a very important question. Do you have a big garden in Vienna so you can move this great model from US to your home garden?
It would be bigger than my house, I guess. Yeah, but you can't, unfortunately. Every little piece that is built for film is put into gigantic warehouses.
Okay.
You never know if there's a sequel or a reshoot or anything, so the studios are very, very, very keen on keeping every little piece, every piece of clothes and costume and set there. Oh. But they would have actually cast one of these chairs for us.
Cool.
Yeah. I think we should still do that.
And now do you have on your business card alien ship designer?
I'd love to, yeah. No, I don't.
Has anybody a question for Johannes?
How long was the production time in total from your work?
So we were kind of involved from the very beginning with this production artwork for the greenlight process to the very end, which was the delivery of this title sequence in the end, and that was like greenlight presentation till end. It's about 1.5 years. So it started in fall 2014 and was finished in spring 2016.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm also working with concepts, and I always have the question, when you build something fictional, how do you know how does it work? Like, is it makeable to animate this, or I don't know, to build? Because as a concept designer, you don't know. How do you know it? Like how it works?
Well, there's two things in how it has to work, right? I mean, one thing is it has to work in the script, which is super important, and the other thing is obviously it has to be built. Yeah, either it has to be animated or it has to be built. And what I love so much about working in the film industry and also in the game industry is that it's always this huge organism, such a great team, you know. And if you can let go or involve, you know, other talent, it's always mind-blowing and brings you further. So I simply ask, you know, if I have, like in these 3 days that I came up with this potato between the rings, I kept running to the VFX supervisor and said, okay, how can we do that? Is that cool? Can we, you know, or to the DOP, the you know, cameraman, to say, okay, is that fine? Do you need more windows? Do you need more kind of, you know, presentation of the characters? Can you move your camera in there? Where do we need a hole, maybe, that you can put the camera in? So it's always about discussion. No concept designer can ever know these kind of things. You know, you get a good estimation of what could work and not the longer you do the design. But it's always about asking. It's always about involving yourself in the team, getting knowledge into your work.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think there was another
I have
question.
a second question.
Okay.
If I can. Sorry.
No, we have time.
And where do you get your inspirations for your spaceships? Like, is it only nature, or do you also look into films and?
Yeah, for sure. No, everywhere. Yeah. But it's more for film. And maybe for games too, the biggest inspiration is the script. You know, that you read the script, and you shouldn't fly over that. You should read it a couple of times, and at one point things start talking to you. You know, it really, there are scenes in the script that can only solve this way, and the more you think about it, the more you read the dialogues of what the people say and how their attitudes is, the more shapes start, you know, coming in your inner eye, and most of the time I can't really nail them down, and this is the point when I need to go out and look for something. You know, I know kind of what I'm looking for. I have an idea after I've read the script. I don't really know how it looks exactly. It's more like a feeling, you know, and I think you need that in order to start browsing everywhere. Not as in browsing the internet, but that too. But, you know, looking at these microscopic things, or looking at buildings, or looking at cars, or looking at spaceships, or whatever it is. But I think it's very important to get your initial spark from what the project is.
So, thanks.
Sure.
Kannst du noch weitergeben?
Hello, I have a little question. When you construct the alien chair, and it's with alien-shaped round lines, and everything is organic, is it possible to create it on the real set one-to-one? Are there variations in like the inches or centimeters to recreate it out of the sketches, the draft, the script? Because it's not geometrical, but no sharp edges, but it's so organic, and like blood vessels and so on.
Well, in this case, the story behind that is this set that was built earlier that I showed you, that was kind of in the last minute of the shooting. They said, no, it's not going to happen. We can't use that anymore. It doesn't fit in the film anymore. So they had to have a reshoot. And this reshoot was just 2 or 3 months after, after they figured it out that they needed a new one. So it was extreme time pressure on that. And I was really, as I said, I was popping out these paintings as quickly as I could. And it was just thanks to Amalgamated, is the name of this company, to their insane talent that they just put the printouts there and kind of sculpted it like this, like real artistry. Okay. So it was just really, okay, let's do it like this. In this case, it was very, very old school, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And one little more question. Is it an unwritten rule that everything has to be axisymmetric or sometimes point symmetric when you consider the mothership, so that one half of a house or a spaceship is built and then duplicated to or gespiegelt to the other side, or is this not a way normally someone is working?
No, well, there's 2 reasons for why it's good to do that. I had this discussion with Simon earlier, I think, that I like the cliché in that sense that you have to pick up the audience. You know, there has to be something to feel right about that thing before you move on and introduce something new, you know? And if you look at, flying vessels, every flying vessel, other than fantasy ones, have to be symmetrical. You know, there's physical laws to that. Doesn't matter for aliens. They could do anything, obviously, right? But I mean, there's one thing that speaks to your Sehgewohnheit, to your visual convention. And the other thing is, we took our inspiration from biomimetic things, from bionical things, looking at bugs and flies. And in biology, apart from mutations, everything is symmetrical as well. So it felt very natural that we say we have to make it symmetrical, for these 2 reasons, to kind of pick up the audience when they see this alien ship, in order to have freedom on other parts to introduce something more weird.
Thank you.
Sure.
One more question.
What are the biggest difference between creating a CG model for a movie or a video game?
Oh, it's huge. It's for a video, you have all these real-time engine requirements that you have to meet, obviously. Like what I'm doing here is just blocking. It's just random popping out shapes. It's a massacre. If you show that to a real 3D artist, he would crack up there. But being a designer, I can't really tell you the intricacies between real visual effects 3D models and game engine models, other than the one is pre-rendered, the other is real time, so you get these really huge requirement differences in there. But in terms of what I'm modeling there, this is a disaster. It just really holds up a screenshot so you can paint over it, and that's all it can do. One can do another thing which is pretty cool. Designing like that helps a lot because, I mean, we were sending all the 3D models to the VFX department, and they obviously had to rebuild it from scratch, but they got a lot of information in there in terms of thicknesses and proportions and everything. So designing with 3D models is helpful in many ways, even though
to get a feel for the object.
Yeah, that too, absolutely. If you have in 3D, you can really examine it. Yeah, that's the first thing. You can have renderings as base for your illustrations. You can start animating things to really communicate, okay, this is what's happening with the thing. And you can provide it for the pipeline later on to kind of take this as a reference for further development of these 3D models. So I mean, if there's concept artists here, I mean, it's an obvious hint. You guys have to work in 3D. 2D alone is just, it's not gonna work. But I guess everybody's doing that anyways.
Thank you.
Sure.
We have this evening, this event, our digital artist meet and greet. Johannes is there, and maybe you can grab him by a drink for
By the
another
neck.
question. Last question from my side. We have here a lot of students. Can you say in percent how much time each month do you spend for training your skills, to learn new things, to fill up your creativity bucket? Can you say that?
Yeah, too little, because I have this company, you know, and there's not much time for really improving my skills. They're more like in directing and creative vision, but we really work on the skills of our staff. This is a very important thing. We have these internal lectures where people do a show and tell and show their kind of knowledge and tools and what they use, and we make sure that the designers are on the edge, but I myself, no time left, unfortunately.
Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.
I have a small present for you.
Oh.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. It's not Nikolaus.
Wow, cool. Can I open it now?
Yeah.
What is it? Hamburg Spaceships. Yeah. Oh, it's really well. Speicherkonsorten. Hanseatenpfeffer, thanks. Some greetings from Hamburg.